The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Council Station hung suspended in the void, its 12 concentric rings rotating gently against the backdrop of stars. Through the transparent viewing panels that lined the outer walls, 3 planets were visible: ice-covered Cathari, blue-oceaned Orithia, and the crimson star of Raxilon. Their light filtered through the crystalline structure, casting prismatic shadows across the polished floor where history was about to unfold. The year was 2438 CE. Humanity had achieved interstellar travel 60 years prior, and the Galactic Alliance had formed across over 200 advanced species. But only 12 held seats on the council that governed interstellar affairs. Today, that might change. Major Hannah Lyric smoothed the front of her Navy diplomatic uniform, trying to calm her racing heart. As Earth's first permanent ambassador, she carried the weight of 8 billion souls on her shoulders. Her mission: to present humanity's case for inclusion in the Galactic Council, to prove that despite being a death world species, humans deserved a place among the stars. 2 minutes until formal proceedings. Ambassador, whispered Dr. Lei Fuanglan, her cultural advisor. The petite woman's calm demeanor belied the tension Hannah could see in her eyes. Remember the protocol, added Dr. Marcus Wren, the interplanetary psychology specialist. Direct eye contact with the Central Elder, but only peripheral acknowledgement of the other council members until formally addressed. Captain Bradley adjusted his sidearm discreetly. As head of security, he had spent weeks memorizing potential threat vectors in this room. Something feels off, he murmured, dark eyes scanning the chamber. The Tuari delegates are unusually quiet. Hannah nodded, absorbing their counsel while maintaining her poised exterior. She knew what they didn't say, that her predecessors had failed catastrophically 60 years ago in humanity's first contact with the Council, that her own father had been among those who returned in disgrace, labeled the disastrous space ambassador, that many on Earth believed this invitation was merely a setup, a chance for the Council to formally reject humanity as unworthy. They're just testing us, she replied softly. The test of ascendancy is their way of ensuring only worthy species join their ranks. But even as she spoke, her eyes caught the subtle movement of shadows behind the council seats. Captain Bradley had noticed too, his hand moving imperceptibly closer to his weapon. On the internal communication network, hushed voices discussed the tragedy of 2378, when the Hrak delegation had committed mass suicide after failing their own test of ascendancy. Hannah tried not to think about what might happen if Earth suffered the same fate. The enormous doors at the far end of the hall parted silently. 12 beings entered, each representing one of the founding species of the Galactic Alliance. They took their positions on the elevated dais: living crystal Creox, militaristic Tuari, metallic insectoid Miraxians, red-skinned stoic Rovians, gelatinous peace-loving Leomox, and 7 others, all watching with expressions ranging from curiosity to thinly veiled contempt. In the center sat Alorix, the Central Elder, whose species had mastered interstellar travel when humans were still learning to make fire. His translucent skin seemed to absorb and reflect the light around him as he gestured toward the empty 13th chair. "Let the Earth delegation approach," he announced, his voice echoing through the chamber. Hannah led her 7-person team forward. Dr. Lan, Dr. Wren, Captain Bradley, 2 interpreters, and 2 additional security officers. The click of their heels on the polished floor echoed in the sudden silence. As Hannah approached seat 13, positioned slightly lower than the 12 council seats, but still elevated above the General Assembly, she felt the weight of every eye upon her. The room fell completely silent, not a whisper or rustle to be heard. "We, the 12 elders, formally welcome Earth, the 13th species, to join the galactic family," the Central Elder began. "However, before acceptance, Earth's ambassador must present the core values of humanity, within 60 minutes. If your presentation fails to convince us, the Council reserves the right to withdraw the invitation. Hannah felt her team tense behind her. The terms were harsh but not unexpected. We will transmit deep assessment questions directly to your biological cells, Alorix continued. Any detected contradiction will terminate this session immediately. From the Twari section, a delegate called out, half joking and half serious. Will we hear a peace manifesto or a call to arms? Earth is famous for starting conflicts over lunar ownership. Hannah stood in the center of the room, determination in her eyes, despite her pounding heart. The question hung in the air like a challenge. Could a single speech overcome centuries of suspicion from other species? Was her delegation truly safe, or merely scapegoats for the Council's agenda? She took a deep breath and began, Honorable Elders, distinguished delegates, I stand before you as a representative of humanity, a species that has traversed the long path from primitive caves to the stars above. We come seeking neither dominance nor special treatment, but partnership and mutual respect. Hannah activated the holographic display, projecting images of Earth's cultural history, from the ancient cave paintings of Lascaux to the grand Vienna balls, from Michelangelo's David to Hollywood cinema. She continued with demonstrations of technological achievements, Mars machinery, defensive satellites, medical technologies that had cured cancer. These achievements represent our journey, she said, but they tell only part of our story. An eternal from the planet Cryox, a crystalline being who had lived for millennia, interrupted. Humans pride themselves on art, yet you've killed each other over skin color and religion. Can what you call art erase such crimes? Hannah met the being's gaze steadily. No art can erase our mistakes, but it can help us learn from them. What makes humanity unique is not our perfection, but our diversity and our capacity to grow through connection. She described Project Halaccumulate, an interplanetary data-sharing initiative where Earth scientists had freely contributed medical breakthroughs to benefit all species. The Cryox elder nodded approvingly, conceding the first point. Dr. Lon stepped forward for the second phase of the presentation. She demonstrated Earth's humanitarian standards through images of Earth medical facilities treating not only humans, but wild animals and even humanoid robots. Our ethics extend beyond our species, Lon explained. We have learned that compassion knows no biological boundaries. Dr. Wren supplemented with interplanetary psychology, showing how humans had overcome internal conflicts, particularly after the Sixth War of 2399. A Hazrox delegate, one of the Red Rovians known for their stoic culture, challenged sharply. You claim to have transcended war, but what guarantee do we have that you won't develop a weapon of mass destruction at the last minute? Captain Bradley stepped forward, his voice calm but authoritative. After 2399, Earth signed the Equinox Accord, a global monitoring mechanism with a charter respecting the right to life. Our priority is cooperation, not weapons development. As the presentation continued, tensions within the Earth delegation became apparent. Dr. Wren whispered concerns to Hannah during a brief pause. You've spoken eloquently, but what about the opposition faction back on Earth? What about the conservatives who want to withdraw from the Council? Dr. Lan worried that Hannah's multicultural approach might appear naive to the Council. Captain Bradley remained vigilant, having detected suspicious data signals bouncing around the chamber. His team had quietly neutralized an unidentified aerial vehicle attempting to breach the station's defensive systems, a UAV belonging to the Carthaginians. For the third round of questioning, Hannah addressed strategic and political value, highlighting successful alliances between Earth and Alpha Centauri, including the Gaia-Lux project to revitalize dead planets. The Leomox delegate, a crystalline jellyfish-like being known for absolute pacifism, asked pointedly, If Earth joins, can we be confident that other species won't exploit humans as war shields? Dr. Lan presented the empathic bond bracelet, a medical invention creating physiological connections between allies, preventing indiscriminate violence through shared pain. Behind the scenes, Meraxians were observed exchanging whispers with extremist Tuari, discussing plans to eliminate Earth right in the council chamber if they don't comply. Through internal decoding protocols, Dr. Wren discovered that Hannah's psychological data was being tampered with, not by the Earth delegation, but by extremist Tuari with ulterior motives. Captain Bradley discreetly informed Hannah, "You're about to be trapped. They'll activate a will suppression device to make you admit things you never said." The electronic timer on the ceiling showed 15 minutes remaining. All eyes focused on Hannah as the remaining 11 elders whispered among themselves, discussing the final test. Cameras zoomed in on Hannah's face, determined, yet with a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. Could she prevail when enemies had already set their trap? Suddenly, the lighting system failed. The chamber plunged into near darkness, with only emergency lights casting an eerie glow. Extremist Tuari activated the Mind Siphon, a consciousness suppression device. Hannah clutched her temples, pain shooting through her head as her thoughts were gradually strangled. Confess that Earth only creates weapons. Admit that humans are a threat. Dr. Wren rushed to adjust the EU brain shield protection, a technology designed to maintain mental integrity. He sacrificed half his programming time to create an emotional link between Hannah and Dr. Lan, helping stabilize her mind. But just as he pulled Hannah from the control loop, a technological identification beam struck Marcus, causing him to collapse. Captain Bradley appeared with the security team, shooting down the signal-emitting UAV and forcing the extremist delegates to reveal themselves. Gunfire flashed at the foot of the holographic dais. Fighting through the mental constriction, Hannah shouted, breaking the attack. "I would rather die than allow interplanetary relations to reach an impasse." She freed herself from the negative impulses thanks to the EU brain shield that Dr. Wren had integrated. In a defining moment, Hannah stretched her hand upward, her gaze fixed directly on the 12 elders. Her voice was steady and confident as she declared, "Humanity does not seek war, but we know how to transform tragedy into hope. Yes, we are a death world species, but it is precisely because of this that we overcome death and rise as greater beings. Look into my heart. As I stand here, I am just a solitary representative. Yet I believe that, at this moment, every eye is truly fixed upon me. Because if you judge our mistakes with old thinking, you will forever miss the great potential of a species that knows how to destroy itself in order to be reborn." The chamber erupted in reaction. Extremist Tuari, Rovians, and Hazroks responded with outrage, ready to shout objections. In contrast, the immortal Cryox and the Iron Ant Murax, though typically stern but fair, began nodding in agreement, sensing the genuine energy in Hannah's voice. The remaining 11 members remained silent. The Central Elder's expression shifted from skepticism to astonishment. Humans truly take pride in their own tragedy? Dr. Lei Fuanglan activated the empathic relay. For 5 seconds, she projected panoramic images of the Sixth War and interplanetary humanitarian teams saving over 300 million Rovian lives. The crowd in the hall fell completely silent, feeling alongside Lan. When Hannah sat down in seat 13, the chamber was more silent than when she had risen. Tears glistened in the eyes of several council members, particularly the crystalline Creox. The center of the council suddenly glowed with warm light, unprecedented since the chamber's establishment, as if signaling permission for the arts spectrum to activate. The Central Elder issued a temporary ruling. Earth's methods and spirit deserve continued evaluation. The session is adjourned for 24 hours for careful consideration. If extremist factions do not intervene, we will officially invite Earth to become the 213th member. Hannah had achieved her initial goal, communicating the message of survival value through tragedy and peace. The Earth delegation retreated to the council retreat chamber, their eyes tired but satisfied. The Central Elder convened an emergency meeting with the 12 elders. They had discovered the extremist Tuari and a group of Muraks secretly plotting to expel Earth from the council. Those responsible were suspended, awaiting punishment. The decision to postpone for 24 hours would allow them to observe the spirit of Earth's representative, while encouraging Kraoks and Rovians to mediate reconciliation. Hannah sat by a large glass window, gazing at the silent universe, remembering Dr. Wren's advice. Never lose your tendency toward kindness. She reminded herself that today she had made some progress, but the real integration has only just begun. Captain Bradley reflected on shooting down the Tuari UAV. Violence, though necessary, is only a last resort. He remained convinced that protecting peace must always have the highest priority. Dr. Lei Fuanglan recalled the empathic relay, how genuine emotion had transcended all physical and theoretical barriers. With sincerity, all language barriers crumble. After 24 hours, the final debate in the council resulted in a vote, 9 in favor, 3 against, from extremist Tory and conservative Rovian members. Earth officially became the 213th member of the Galactic Council, invited to sit in seat 13, a position equal to other species representatives, situated between the Kraoks and Rovian seats. In a brief ceremony, the unifying beacon was suspended in the chamber, symbolizing harmony between species. Hannah was given the honor of activating the lantern, a moment when light flooded the entire hall. In her closing statement, Hannah said, "Today, when a human, representing 8 billion of my kind, sits in this chamber, I silently thank our painful history. But it is that very pain that has taught us. The value of existence is not merely survival, but love, sacrifice, and rebirth. I vow not to let this light, the unifying beacon, extinguish, that it may guide other planets when they judge us only by our wartime past. Today, Earth pledges to walk with the Council, not in shadows, but to jointly build a harmonious galaxy." Outside the glass windows, distant planets, commercial vessels, and research ships glided past. A bell signaled the end of the session and the beginning of special conferences on scientific, medical, and artistic alliances. The Earth team reunited after the ceremony. Dr. Wren embraced Hannah. "You did it. Just a small chance from doing the right thing helped us change our destiny." Lan smiled gently. "We've proven that sometimes tragedy itself is the bridge." Bradley gazed into the distance. "Protecting peace is never finished. Don't let anyone forget that." Hannah looked toward the Grand Assembly Hall, where cheers had erupted as the unifying beacon activated. She smiled softly, telling herself, "The journey has truly only just begun." The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Council Station was an architectural marvel, a fusion of biological components and advanced technology. The living mycelia material formed the framework, intertwined with smart alloy metal, creating a structure that seemed both ancient and futuristic. Massive transparent panels revealed the vastness of space, where distant stars glittered like diamonds against the black velvet of the cosmos. Hannah's diplomatic transport had docked at the outermost ring of the station 3 days earlier. Since then, she and her team had been sequestered in the visitors' quarters, preparing for this moment. Every word, every gesture had been rehearsed until it felt natural. But nothing could prepare her for the weight of responsibility that pressed down upon her shoulders as the doors to the Grand Assembly Hall swung open. "Stay focused," Captain Bradley whispered, his hand hovering near his sidearm. "Remember that we've detected unusual activity in the eastern quadrant of the station. The Tuari have been meeting privately with Meraxians far more frequently than protocol would suggest." Hannah nodded almost imperceptibly. "Keep monitoring, But maintain distance. We cannot afford to appear aggressive. The grand chamber was arranged in a perfect circle, with tiered seating rising from the central floor. The 12 council seats occupied the highest tier, positioned like judges overlooking a court. Seat 13, Hannah's destination, sat one level below them, a visible reminder of Earth's probationary status. Thousands of representatives from hundreds of species filled the observer galleries. Some were allies, others competitors, and many were simply curious about the upstart humans who had survived on a planet so hostile that most council species would consider it uninhabitable. As Hannah approached the center of the floor, a hush fell over the assembly. Beings who had been chattering in hundreds of different languages suddenly fell silent, their attention focused entirely on the slender human woman in her formal blue uniform. "Delegation from Earth," announced the Central Elder, his voice resonating without any apparent amplification technology. "You stand before the Galactic Council, which has governed interstellar affairs for 10,000 years. Your species has been invited to present its case for membership, a rare honor extended only to those who show exceptional promise." Hannah bowed slightly, precisely the depth appropriate for a potential member rather than a supplicant. "The people of Earth are honored by this opportunity." Central Elder Alorix. "Before you begin," Alorix continued, "I must inform you of the conditions. You will have 60 Earth minutes to present the core values of humanity and answer our questions. During this time, we will employ resonance technology to detect any biological indication of deception. Should we determine that you are being dishonest, or should your presentation fail to meet our standards, Earth's application will be permanently rejected." From the gallery, Hannah heard murmurs. Some were supportive, others doubtful, and a few openly hostile. A Tuari delegate's voice carried above the others. "They couldn't even resolve their lunar border disputes without bloodshed." Hannah took a steadying breath. This was the moment she had prepared for, since being selected as Earth's representative. She touched the small control on her wrist, activating the holographic display that would supplement her presentation. "Esteemed Council, distinguished observers," she began, her voice clear and confident despite the tension knotting her stomach. "Humanity comes before you, not claiming perfection, but progress. We do not deny our violent past, nor do we pretend that we have overcome all our flaws. Instead, we offer you honesty about who we are and hope about who we are becoming." The hologram expanded, showing a timeline of Earth's history. It began with ancient cave paintings, moved through the great artistic achievements of different human civilizations, and culminated with recent cultural exchanges with non-human species. "Art is the mirror in which we see ourselves most clearly," Hannah continued. "Through it, we have learned to recognize both our beauty and our ugliness. It has taught us empathy by allowing us to experience the world through others' eyes." An imposing crystalline being leaned forward in its council seat. This was the Creox Elder, rumored to be over 3,000 years old. "Human," it said, its voice reminiscent of chimes in a gentle breeze. "Your species has created works of undeniable beauty. Yet you have also slaughtered each other over differences as minor as pigmentation and religious beliefs. How can you reconcile these contradictions? How can art absolve such sins?" Hannah had anticipated this question. It was the fundamental challenge to human worthiness. How could a species capable of such creativity also commit such atrocities? "Art does not absolve us," she answered. "Nothing can erase the blood spilled throughout our history. But art has been our teacher, helping us recognize our capacity for both creation and destruction. It has been the vehicle through which we have learned to see beyond our differences and recognize our shared humanity." She gestured, and the hologram shifted to show Project Halaccumulate, Earth's initiative to share medical and scientific discoveries freely with all species. "When we reach the stars, we brought not only our art but our science, offered without expectation of return. Through diversity, we found unity. Through sharing knowledge, we found purpose beyond ourselves. The Creox elder settled back, a subtle gesture of acceptance. The first hurdle had been cleared. Dr. Lei Fuanglan stepped forward at Hannah's signal. Her specialty was cross-species medical ethics, and she had been instrumental in developing protocols for treating non-human patients. The essence of humanity's ethical evolution, Lan explained, gesturing to new images of Earth hospitals treating various species, is our expanding circle of moral concern. Once limited to our immediate tribe, it now encompasses all sentient beings. She highlighted the Interstellar Medical Corps, which had responded to disasters on 12 planets in the past decade alone, saving millions of lives regardless of species. The red-skinned Hazrox delegate leaned forward aggressively. Fine words, but your species has barely emerged from its planetary cradle. You claim to have moved beyond warfare, yet your history is stained with it. What prevents you from developing planet killers when it suits your purposes? Captain Bradley stepped forward, his military bearing evident, but his demeanor deliberately non-threatening. After the Sixth War of 2399, he explained, Earth established the Equinox Accord, a transparent global monitoring system that prevents the development of weapons of mass destruction. All signatories submit to continuous verification, enforced by an international body with universal jurisdiction. He activated his own portion of the presentation, showing the global defense network that now protected Earth, designed specifically to be incapable of offensive action beyond the solar system. We learned through bitter experience that security cannot come at the expense of others' safety. True security is mutual, or it is an illusion. As Bradley stepped back, Hannah noticed Dr. Wren's concerned expression. During a momentary pause as the holographic display shifted, he moved closer to her. There's something happening in the auxiliary systems, he murmured. Bradley's team detected unauthorized data packets moving through the station's communication grid. They're focusing on this chamber. Hannah maintained her composed expression, though her pulse quickened. Can they trace the source? Working on it. But Hannah, I'm worried these might be targeting you specifically. The pattern resembles neural interference codes. Before she could respond, the Leomox delegate, resembling a translucent jellyfish suspended in a gravity field, addressed her directly. Ambassador Lyric, your presentation speaks of peace and cooperation. Yet humans evolved on a planet that required aggression for survival. If admitted to the Council, how can we be certain that other, more established species won't manipulate this innate human aggression for their own purposes? It was a clever question, suggesting that humans might be too naive to recognize when they were being used as pawns in galactic politics. Hannah nodded respectfully to the Leomox. Your concern is valid, Elder. Humans do possess the capacity for aggression, but also for discernment. We have learned, often painfully, to recognize manipulation and coercion. She nodded to Dr. Lan, who activated a secondary display showing the empathic bond bracelet, one of Earth's most significant contributions to interspecies diplomacy. This technology, Lan explained, creates a physiological link between allies, allowing them to literally feel each other's pain. It has transformed diplomatic relations by making it impossible to sacrifice partners without experiencing the consequences directly. The Leomox's translucent body pulsed with colors that indicated interest and cautious approval. Behind the delegates, in the shadowed alcoves of the chamber, Captain Bradley's security team had identified the source of the unauthorized transmissions. A cluster of Tuareg extremists were gathered near one of the environmental control nodes, their bodies partially concealing a device that wasn't part of the station's standard equipment. Bradley's second-in-command discreetly approached him with the information. Sir, we've identified what appears to be a Mind-Siphon device positioned near Section 7. It's aimed directly at Ambassador Lyric's position. Bradley's expression remained neutral, but his mind raced. The Mind-Siphon was illegal in Council space, a technology designed to suppress a subject's will and implant suggestible thoughts. If activated during Hannah's presentation, it could force her to say things that would instantly disqualify Earth from Council membership. He touched his communicator, sending a coded message to the two security officers positioned nearest to the device. They would need to neutralize it without creating a diplomatic incident, a nearly impossible task in the current environment. Meanwhile, Hannah had moved to the final phase of her presentation, addressing the strategic benefits of Earth's membership. The galaxy is vast, and resources, while abundant, are not infinite, she explained. Earth's approach to resource management has been shaped by our planet's limitations. We've developed technologies for sustainable extraction, minimal waste, and ecological balance. The hologram displayed the Galactic project, a collaborative effort between Earth and Alpha Centauri to revitalize planets damaged by resource extraction. Dead worlds were being transformed into habitable ones through a combination of terraforming and bioengineering. We offer not just these technologies, but a philosophy that advancement need not come at the cost of destruction, that we can build without tearing down. The electronic timer on the chamber's ceiling showed 20 minutes remaining. Hannah could sense a shift in the atmosphere. Some council members were leaning forward with interest, while others remained skeptical. The observers in the gallery had grown increasingly engaged, their murmurs suggesting that many were impressed by Earth's presentation. But Dr. Wren's warning nagged at her. If there truly was a mind Sci-Fi device in the chamber, her entire mission could be compromised in an instant. As if sensing her thoughts, the lights in the Grand Assembly Hall flickered momentarily. Then, without warning, they went out completely, plunging the chamber into darkness. Emergency lighting activated seconds later, casting an eerie blue glow across the faces of the assembled delegates. In that moment of confusion, Hannah felt a sharp pain behind her eyes, a pressure building inside her skull that hadn't been there before. Thoughts that weren't her own began to intrude. Admit the truth. Earth is dangerous. Humans are predators. You seek weapons, not peace. She gripped the podium, fighting against the foreign thoughts. This was the mind Sci-Fi, attempting to override her consciousness. Dr. Wren saw Hannah's sudden rigidity and recognized the signs immediately. He rushed forward, activating the EU brain shield, a prototype technology developed specifically to counter mental interference. It created a protective field around the user's brain, filtering external neural signals. "Hold on, Hannah," he whispered urgently, adjusting the device's settings. "Fight it. These aren't your thoughts." The pressure intensified, bringing Hannah to her knees. The council members watched in confusion as Dr. Lan rushed to her side, taking her hand and activating a secondary function of the EU brain shield, the emotional link. This technology, still experimental, created a bridge between two minds, allowing one to support the other against external influence. Lan's steady presence flowed into Hannah's consciousness, helping her distinguish between her own thoughts and the implanted suggestions. Across the chamber, Captain Bradley's team had located the mind Sci-Fi. One officer fired a targeted EMP burst, designed to disable electronic equipment without harming biological beings. The device sparked and smoked, but before it went offline completely, it released a retaliatory pulse. The pulse struck Dr. Wren squarely in the chest, sending him sprawling across the chamber floor. He lay motionless, the neural disruptor having temporarily overloaded his nervous system. With the mind Sci-Fi damaged but not destroyed, Hannah still fought against its influence. The foreign thoughts continued to press against her mind, though with less intensity. She forced herself to her feet, refusing to be conquered. She began, her voice strained. "I will not be controlled." The chamber fell silent, all eyes fixed on the human woman struggling against invisible forces. "Humanity does not seek war," she continued, each word a battle won. "We have seen enough death to last a millennium." She straightened, drawing strength from Dr. Lan's emotional support and her own indomitable will. Yes, we come from a death world. Yes, we have fought and killed and destroyed. But it is precisely because we know the cost of violence that we value peace so highly. Her voice grew stronger, filling the chamber. We have learned to transform tragedy into hope. We have learned that from the ashes of destruction, new life can emerge. We have learned that our greatest strength is not in our capacity for violence, but in our ability to rise above it. She extended her hand toward the council, her gaze unwavering. Look into my heart. As I stand here, I am just a solitary representative. Yet I believe that, at this moment, every eye is truly fixed upon me, because if you judge our mistakes with old thinking, you will forever miss the great potential of a species that knows how to destroy itself in order to be reborn. The extremist Tuareg delegates erupted in protests, joined by several Rovians and Hazraks. But their voices were quickly drowned out by something unexpected: applause. It began with the Creocs, their crystalline appendages creating a chiming sound as they struck together. The Muraks joined next, their metallic exoskeletons producing a rhythmic tapping. Even as the chamber divided between supporters and detractors, Hannah remained standing, her eyes fixed on the central elder, whose expression had transformed from skepticism to wonder. "Humans," Aloric said, his voice cutting through the chaos. "You take pride in your tragedy. You find strength in your suffering." "Not pride in the suffering itself," Hannah clarified. "Pride in our resilience, in our refusal to be defined by our worst moments, in our capacity to learn and grow and become better than we were." Dr. Lan, still maintaining the emotional link with Hannah, activated the empathic relay, a technology that projected emotional states to receptive beings. For 5 critical seconds, she shared the collective human experience, the sorrow of the Sixth War, when 3 billion humans had died, the determination of the recovery efforts, the profound joy when Earth had united to prevent such a catastrophe from ever happening again, and finally, the transcendent moment when human medical teams had saved 300 million Rovians from a plague that had threatened to annihilate their species. The emotions washed over the assembled delegates like a wave, temporarily silencing even the most vocal critics. For those brief seconds, they felt what it meant to be human, the pain and the joy, the despair and the hope, all intertwined in a complex tapestry of experience. When Hannah finally returned to seat 13, the silence in the chamber was absolute. Not a whisper, not a movement disturbed the stillness. Several council members, particularly among the Creocs, had what appeared to be tears glistening on their crystalline surfaces. Then, without warning, a warm, golden light began to emanate from the center of the council dais, a phenomenon that, according to later accounts, had never occurred in the chamber's long history. It spread outward, illuminating the space with a gentle radiance that seemed to invite creativity and connection. The central elder raised his hands, signaling for attention. "This session has been unprecedented," he announced. "The methods and spirit demonstrated by Earth deserve continued evaluation. We will adjourn for 24 hours to consider what we have witnessed here today. If no further interference occurs, we will reconvene to officially welcome Earth as the 213th member of the Galactic Alliance." His gaze swept the chamber, lingering on the area where the mind siphon had been discovered. Those responsible for today's disruption will be identified and held accountable. Such tactics have no place in these proceedings. With that, the session was adjourned. Medical personnel rushed to attend to Dr. Wren, who was beginning to regain consciousness. Captain Bradley's team secured the disabled mind siphon as evidence, while Hannah and Dr. Lan supported each other as they made their way to the council retreat chamber. Once inside the private room, Hannah allowed herself to sink into a chair, the adrenaline that had sustained her now draining away. "That was she began, but words failed her. Extraordinary, Dr. Lan supplied, her own face pale with exhaustion. You broke through a mine siphon attack. That's supposed to be impossible. Captain Bradley entered, his expression grim. The device has been contained. Preliminary investigation confirms it was operated by a faction of extremist Tuareg, with possible Maraxian support. They're being detained for questioning. And Dr. Wren? Hannah asked anxiously. Stable. The medical team says he'll recover fully, though he'll need several hours of neural regeneration. Hannah nodded, relieved. She moved to the large window that dominated one wall of the retreat chamber. Beyond the transparent material, the vast expanse of space stretched endlessly, stars scattered like diamonds across black velvet. He told me once, she said softly, never to lose my capacity for kindness. That, in the end, that's what would matter most. She placed her palm against the cool surface of the window. I think today proved him right. It's only the beginning, Bradley reminded her, coming to stand beside her. We've made an impression, but we haven't secured our position yet. No, Hannah agreed, but we've shown them who we truly are. Not just our strengths, but our vulnerabilities too. And sometimes, that's more powerful than any display of force could ever be. While the Earth delegation rested and regrouped, the Central Elder convened an emergency session with the 12 elders. Evidence of the conspiracy had been presented, confirming that a group of extremist Tuareg and Maraxians had plotted to sabotage Earth's application through illegal means. This violation of Council protocol is unprecedented, the Liamox Elder stated, their translucent body pulsing with indignation. Using a mine siphon during an ascendancy test undermines the very foundation of our evaluation process. The question remains, countered the Hazrox Elder, whether the human response was genuine or merely a reaction to the attack. Can we truly judge their worthiness based on such unusual circumstances? The Central Elder considered this. Perhaps the circumstances, though unplanned, provided a more authentic test than any we could have designed. Under attack, facing manipulation and coercion, the human ambassador chose truth and resilience over surrender. She demonstrated the very qualities her presentation claimed humans possess. After hours of debate, the Council reached a consensus. The conspirators would be suspended from their positions pending a full investigation, and Earth's application would proceed to a formal vote after the 24-hour reflection period. Meanwhile, the Creox and moderate Rovian delegates were encouraged to act as mediators, reaching out to factions that remained skeptical of human inclusion. As the new day cycle began on the station, Hannah sat alone by the window in the retreat chamber. She had slept little, her mind replaying the events of the previous day. The pain of the mine siphon attack still lingered as a dull ache behind her eyes, but her resolve remained unshaken. Captain Bradley entered, his uniform fresh but dark circles under his eyes, suggesting he too had found little rest. Any word? Hannah asked. He nodded. Informal channels suggest the vote is trending in our favor. The Creox have been particularly vocal in their support, arguing that any species capable of withstanding a mine siphon attack through sheer force of will deserves consideration. And the opposition? Still present, but less organized since the conspirators were removed. The more moderate Tuareg have distanced themselves from the extremist faction. Hannah nodded thoughtfully. I've been thinking about yesterday, about the moment I fired on the UAV. Violence was necessary in that instance, but it's always a last resort. Our commitment to peace must remain our highest priority, even when we're forced to defend ourselves. Bradley's expression softened. That balance, knowing when to fight and when to extend a hand in friendship, is what makes you a good ambassador. Hannah, it's what makes humanity worth fighting for. Dr. Lan joined them, carrying a tray of nutrient capsules designed to be palatable to human biochemistry. Dr. Wren is awake, she reported. Still weak, But the neural regeneration was successful. He's asking to see you, Hannah. In the medical bay, Dr. Wren lay on a recovery platform, surrounded by equipment monitoring his neural patterns. His face was pale, but his eyes were clear and alert. "Ambassador," he greeted her with a weak smile. "I hear you made quite an impression after I so rudely took a nap in the middle of proceedings." Hannah took his hand, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "You saved me, Marcus. If you hadn't recognized the mind siphon attack and activated the EU brain shield..." He squeezed her hand. "You saved yourself. The shield just gave you a fighting chance. Your mind, your will, those were your own." "The empathic relay was brilliant," he added, turning to Dr. Lan. "To let them feel our history, our struggles and triumphs. No argument could have been more persuasive." Lan smiled gently. "With sincerity, all barriers fall, even those between species. The council members may not fully understand us yet, but now they've felt what it means to be human. That connection can't be undone." As the 24-hour waiting period drew to a close, the Earth delegation prepared to return to the Grand Assembly Hall. Dr. Wren, though still recovering, insisted on attending. "I started this journey with you," he said firmly. "I intend to see it through to the end." The chamber was even more crowded than before, news of the previous day's dramatic events having spread throughout the station. As Hannah and her team took their positions, she noted subtle changes in the atmosphere: less hostility, more curiosity, and in some quarters, genuine respect. The Central Elder called the session to order. After extensive deliberation and in light of recent events, the Council will now vote on Earth's application for membership in the Galactic Alliance. One by one, the Elders cast their votes. The Creox, Leomox, and moderate factions of several other species voted in favor. The conservative Rovians and remaining Tuari extremists voted against. When the final tally was announced, 9 in favor, 3 opposed, a murmur of approval rippled through the gallery. "Earth," pronounced the Central Elder, "is hereby accepted as the 213th member of the Galactic Alliance, with all the rights and responsibilities that entails." He gestured toward seat 13, which now glowed with the same warm light that had appeared at the center of the dais the day before. "Ambassador Lyric, please take your rightful place among us." As Hannah ascended to seat 13, positioned between the Creox and Rovian representatives, the chamber fell silent once more, not with tension or suspicion this time, but with recognition of a historic moment. In the center of the chamber, a crystalline structure descended from the ceiling, the unifying beacon, a symbol of harmony between species. It remained dark until activated by a new member of the Council. "Ambassador," the Central Elder said, "would you do us the honor?" Hannah stepped forward, placing her hand on the activation panel. The beacon responded immediately, illuminating with a radiance that filled the chamber, reflecting off the crystalline surfaces and creating a kaleidoscope of colors. Standing in that light, Hannah addressed the Council and the assembled delegates. "Today, when a human, representing 8 billion of my kind, sits in this chamber, I silently thank our painful history, for it is that very pain that has taught us the most valuable lesson, that existence is not merely about survival, but about love, sacrifice, and rebirth. I vow not to let this light, the unifying beacon, extinguish, that it may guide other planets when they judge us only by our wartime past. Today, Earth pledges to walk with the Council, not in shadows, but to jointly build a harmonious galaxy where diversity is not just tolerated, but celebrated, where differences are not feared but explored, and where the capacity for growth is recognized in every sentient being." Outside the transparent panels, ships moved through the void. Commercial vessels, research crafts, diplomatic shuttles. Life continued its eternal dance against the backdrop of stars. A bell chimed, signaling the formal conclusion of the session and the beginning of a new era of cooperation. Special conferences on scientific, medical, and artistic alliances were announced, with Earth invited to participate fully in each. As the formal proceedings ended, the Earth delegation gathered in a quiet corner of the chamber. Dr. Wren, still weak but standing on his own, embraced Hannah. "You did it," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Just a small chance from doing the right thing helped us change our destiny." Dr. Lan smiled, her eyes reflecting the light of the beacon. "We've proven that sometimes tragedy itself is the bridge that connects us to others. Our wounds, visible and invisible, make us who we are." Captain Bradley gazed across the chamber, where delegates from hundreds of species were mingling, many approaching Earth representatives with gestures of greeting and respect. "Protecting peace is never finished," he said quietly. "Don't let anyone forget that. But today, we've taken a significant step toward a future where that protection becomes a shared responsibility." Hannah looked toward the Grand Assembly Hall, where the unifying beacon continued to shine, its light a promise of possibilities yet to be explored. She smiled softly, telling herself, "The journey has truly only just begun." As she watched the intermingling of species, some with bodies of crystal, others of metal, still others of flesh so different from human form that communication itself seemed miraculous, she felt a profound sense of rightness. This was where humanity belonged, not isolated on a single planet, but connected to the vast, diverse tapestry of galactic life. The Earth delegation would return home soon, bearing news of their success. There would be celebrations and speeches, policy discussions and planning sessions. But for now, in this moment, Hannah allowed herself to simply exist in the present, a human among the stars, a voice in a cosmic conversation that had been ongoing for millennia before her birth and would continue long after her death. She thought of all the humans who had dreamed of this moment, from ancient astronomers squinting at the heavens through primitive telescopes to the first astronauts who had ventured beyond Earth's atmosphere. She thought of her father, whose failure had paved the way for her success. She thought of future generations, who would grow up in a galaxy where humanity was not an isolated curiosity, but an integrated part of a greater whole. As delegates from various species approached to introduce themselves, Hannah greeted each with the same open curiosity and respect she hoped to receive in return. This, she realized, was the true test of humanity's readiness, not the formal presentation or even the confrontation with the Mind Siphon, but the daily practice of coexistence, the ongoing commitment to understanding across vast differences of biology, psychology, and culture. The Central Elder approached, his luminous form seeming to absorb and reflect the light around him. "Ambassador Lyric," he said, his voice carrying the weight of 10,000 years of history. "You have given us much to consider about the nature of resilience and the value of diversity. The path ahead will not always be smooth, but I believe it will be worthwhile." Hannah bowed slightly. "Thank you, Elder. We do not expect perfection from ourselves or from others. We ask only for the opportunity to learn and grow together." "A wise approach," he replied, "and one that suggests humans may have more to teach us than we initially believed." As he moved away, Dr. Lan joined Hannah, her expression thoughtful. "What do you think happens now?" she asked. Hannah watched the mingling delegates, the shifting patterns of light from the beacon, the stars visible through the transparent panels. "Now," she said, "we begin the real work of belonging, not just sitting at the table, but contributing to the conversation, not just existing in the galaxy, but helping to shape its future." She touched the small Earth emblem on her uniform, a simple blue sphere that represented both her homeworld and the journey that had brought her to this moment. When a human sat on the Galactic Council, the room fell silent, she mused. But silence is only the beginning. What matters is what we say and do next. And as the unifying beacon continued to shine above them, illuminating faces of every conceivable shape and form, Hannah knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, humanity would face them not alone, but as part of something greater than itself. A cosmic community bound together by the shared experience of existence and the endless possibilities of tomorrow.